How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another video. As today we've got our first Michigan football video. As today we're going to take a quick little preview of the 2023 Michigan football season. So many expectations going into this year. I mean, Michigan coming off of two of the most successful seasons ever, making it to the playoff semifinals, winning the Big Ten championship, defeating Ohio State, and then this past year also defeating the Michigan State Spartans as well, even though they really weren't that good. And nonetheless, I mean, going undefeated the whole year, obviously the heartbreaker against TCU, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But really, this is going to be more just looking at the future of this team, as they've got a bright future. Whether or not they win it all this year, they're going to have many more opportunities. Five-star quarterback Jaden Davis committing to Michigan, that's going to give them an even brighter future. So let's look at some players that are going to be some key players in this year's run for the Michigan Wolverines, starting with McCarthy. We're just going to kind of talk about him and, what we expect from him, as well as look at some highlights and some film from him. So just starting off, right away, obviously McCarthy, he had a great sophomore year. If you look at McCarthy last season, he had some really good stats. I think that playing lesser competition kind of helped those stats, especially like the interceptions and, the completion percentage. But if you really look at it, McCarthy stepped up on the biggest stage against Ohio State, Purdue, even in the Big Ten championship game, and then TCU. I mean, you can look at it either way against TCU. You can look at it as McCarthy lost in that game with the 2 interceptions, or you can look at it as McCarthy kept them in that game all the way to the very end, because he was just throwing lasers and bombs downfield to Ronnie Bell, Cornelius Johnson. I mean, he had a great game that game, regardless of the 2 interceptions, because quarterbacks in games like that, they're gonna throw interceptions. It's not all on JJ. But if you watch his highlights and you just kind of watch what he did last season, he was very accurate. He barely threw any picks all year, and there's a lot of passes that were overthrown, underthrown. But he started getting the hang of it, especially towards the end of the year, where he was throwing stuff on the money, and you can tell this kid's got an arm. I mean, I think that's been known since he came in as a freshman, that even though he is smaller, he can chuck the ball downfield. So definitely, I'm really hoping that Michigan this year, even though they're going to have 2 stud running backs with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, I'm really, really hoping that they let McCarthy show what he really can do, because what he did last year I really don't think was all that. I think the TCU game, minus the interceptions, I think that was what McCarthy's able to do, and that's why I think he could end up being a first-round pick. So I'm really hoping Jim Harbaugh lets JJ just go out and throw the ball, throw it downfield, come up with some good plays for him, because last year I just feel like they weren't using him to his full potential, which is okay being a sophomore. This year I'm really thinking they're going to, do more plays like that right there. So it's going to be exciting to see what he does. I think he's going to end up going probably late first round next year. I think he's going to have better stats than what he had this year. I think he's going to have a great year. So now we're going to look at Blake Corum. We're going to take a look at some of his highlights as well and talk about the season that he just had, plus the season he's about to have, because, man, I mean, if this guy would have never gotten hurt, more than likely he would have been invited to New York. I don't know for sure, but he was definitely a top 5. If you want to look at stats, he was a top 5 player in the country. I think running behind Michigan's offensive line really gave him that stat boost and just the ability to, look like the best back in the country. So, but obviously you can tell Corum's got the talent. I think that not going to the NFL this year I would say it's probably a smart decision, just because he'll get another year to, hopefully not have to deal with an injury going into draft. But hopefully just for him, continue to improve that he's got what it takes to make it in the NFL, because I think the reason he didn't go to the draft this year was because he's not NFL ready as a running back. I mean, you can watch him run all you want and see what he does, but if you look at NFL running backs, there's just a certain, you got to have a certain size to you. And I still think that if he would have gone to the NFL, he'd probably be a second, third string somewhere. But, if he wanted to get drafted, if you're talking draft stock, if you want to be a second-round pick, like Kenneth Walker, let's say, you're going to have to not only have a great season, but you're going to have to show that you can do it against the biggest teams. And I think he did that a little bit last year, but I think he's got one more year to prove that he can do that. Because I think the speed's there. I just think that the size is probably the one thing really holding him back. Other than that, I mean, in my opinion, he should have been a 4th-round pick this year. More than likely, he'll be a 3rd, 4th-round pick this year. So we'll see what he does. But if you want to look at stats this year, I think he's going to be really similar. I think he's going to be up there in the 18 rushing touchdowns, maybe 2 receiving. He's going to get the main load of carries for the Michigan Wolverines. I think Donovan Edwards is going to be more of like a Jahmyr Gibbs kind of a guy where he's going to be kind of in the slot more, but we'll see what he does. And now we've got Cornelius Johnson, who, if you want to look at last year compared to the season before, I really don't think he improved as much as what he should have. But we can also look at what we said about J.J. McCarthy, not really unleashing their full potential. J.J. wasn't really, he didn't have that many throws like what you just saw right there downfield. I mean, I think that if Jim Harbaugh, is able to let J.J. throw downfield more and, throw to his receivers a little more, I think that that's going to benefit. I think it's going to benefit Cornelius Johnson as well. I mean, as you can see, he's got the size. He's got all the measurables, really, to be an NFL receiver. I actually saw a mock draft way earlier in the year last year, in the beginning of college football season, that had him going late first round, and I was kind of like, really? But then again, you think about it, I mean, he's 6'3", 6'4", and he's got the size and all the measurables with the speed, the hands. So he's got good route running as well. So, I mean, if you need a guy who can, go downfield and make great contested catches, this is a guy to go to. So I just really hope they unleash him a little bit more and he has a little bit better of a year than what he had this past year, because he's going to be a big part of this Michigan offense. He's going to be JJ's main target, him and Roman Wilson. So I'm really hoping that he breaks out this year and has an even better year. And now we have the stud freshman, soon-to-be sophomore, Will Johnson. Man, I mean, this guy had an impressive freshman year. He was one of the best cornerbacks in all of college as a freshman, a true freshman. I mean, you can see this guy. He's a beast. I mean, he's smaller. He's skinnier. He's not really small, but he's skinnier. He definitely has decent size to him for a corner. He looks like most corners that you would see, going into the NFL. If you look at this year's NFL draft, guys like Christian Gonzalez, he's got, I'd say, a similar build to Devon Witherspoon, who actually went top 5 this year. So if you want to look at Will Johnson, I mean, you can see he can run with the ball as well. So there's another plus to him. There's nothing not to like about this guy. I think if there's one thing that he could get a little better at, it would be like that Devon Witherspoon hitting ability, you know what I mean? Like, just the ability to just go and rock people. But you don't really need to do that if you're a really good tackler. I mean, I guess he does it here and there where he'll, go up and make big hits. But really, he's more just, a clean tackler, which is all you need for a corner. But not only that, but he's a lockdown coverage guy. I think that if he has a similar year, I mean, he's not even going to be able to go to the draft this year. So if he's able to record, a couple interceptions and keep up the, what he did last year with pass breakups and just coverage percentage, how many catches he gives up and stuff like that, this guy's going to have no issue being a first-round pick in 2 years. I mean, in my opinion, he'll be a top 10 pick. I don't see any way that he's not a top 25 pick in 2 years. So definitely going to be a top 5 corner in college this year. And hopefully he has just as good, if not even better, year as last year. As you can see him locking down first-round wide receiver Quentin Johnson right there. This guy's got skill to him. He's an exciting player to watch, and I had to include him in this video just because of how fun he is to watch. So those are all the highlights I'll be showing in this video. I just kind of wanted to focus in on those 4 players, just kind of talk about, the roles they're going to have this year. So a couple other players to watch out for. I really needed to talk about this. I didn't include them in the highlights, but one being Roman Wilson. I think that's going to be a huge part of, J.J. McCarthy's targets this year. I think he's going to have a huge role in the offense. He was probably Michigan's best receiver this year besides Ronnie, and maybe Cornelius as well, but I think he's going to have a big role this year. You look at Donovan Edwards, like I said earlier, he's going to have a Jahmyr Gibbs type of role, being both running back and wide receiver. Donovan Edwards, being a Michigan State fan, by the way, Donovan Edwards is probably my favorite Michigan player going into this season. Being an MSU fan, I've definitely gotten in my fights with other Michigan fans, but man, I have a ton of respect for the Michigan program, obviously being top team in college football the last couple of years, and now the powerhouse of the Big Ten. I got to show my respect. So yeah, and then defensively, another guy that I kind of want to point out, because there's not a lot of known guys on the Michigan defense this coming year, but I think his name's Braden Gregory or something like that. I think he's a defensive edge. He's gonna have a breakout year this year. I think he's gonna shock a lot of people. I think he's gonna go out and get like 10 sacks this year. I can tell you that right now. He's gonna have a breakout year. He's gonna be awesome. I can tell you that right now. He's gonna be great. So those are some other key players I just kind of wanted to quick point out. Prediction wise, I'm gonna go ahead and say I think Michigan's gonna go 11-1 this year. It's hard to say who I think they're gonna lose to. I would say they're gonna go undefeated, but they've got a pretty tough schedule. I think they're gonna end up probably taking a loss at Penn State this year. I think that's gonna be a tough game for them at Beaver Stadium. So hoping they can win, but you know what? We'll see what happens. However, I do think that Michigan will end up making it back into the playoff. I think they're going to either be a 4 seed or they're going to be a 2 or 3 seed. Kind of depends. I think they're going to be in there, with, I don't really know. I don't have my predictions in right now, but I think Michigan's definitely going to be back in the playoff next year. I've got them going in as like a 4 seed. But to be honest with you guys, I do have Michigan making the national championship this year. I think this is the year they finally make it over the playoff semifinal spot. And I think they're going to make it in. I don't know if they're going to win it in the championship. I think that, Georgia could three-peat, or there could be another team that sneaks in and wins it. But I do think Michigan's going to make it there this year. 50-50 on if they win it or not, but that's my expectation. I think this is a bright future kind of a team. A lot of expectations. Can't wait to see what they do. And that's going to basically finish up the video. So let me know what your guys' predictions are. Leave down, put down any comments, about tips for videos that you guys would like to see in the future, or just comments about Michigan football in general, who you're excited to see, what you think the season's going to look like, and who you're most excited to play. So, make sure to like and subscribe if you feel like it. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.